Hello, dear friends. Come, settle in close to the fire. Pull your blankets a little higher. Yes, that's right. Tonight, I want to tell you about a winter's evening many, many years ago, when I found myself quite unexpectedly snowbound in a little mountain inn. It was one of those nights when the world grows quiet and small, and strangers become something more. Let your eyes grow heavy as I speak. There's no need to follow every word. Just let my voice carry you where it will. The snow had been falling since midday. I remember how it started, just a few lazy flakes drifting down through the bare branches as I walked the mountain path. I'd been traveling for 3 days, making my way through the highlands toward the eastern valleys. My staff clicked a steady rhythm against the frozen ground. Click, click, click. A comforting sound. By late afternoon, those lazy flakes had become a curtain of white. The world narrowed to just a few feet ahead of me. The path disappeared beneath a soft blanket, and the wind began to sing, that low, mournful song it makes when it moves through mountain passes. I pulled my cloak tighter. The wool was thick and warm, enchanted years ago to hold heat close. But even so, I could feel the cold trying to find its way in through every gap and fold. That's when I saw it. A light, soft and golden, barely visible through the swirling snow. The Copper Kettle Inn. I'd stayed there once before, perhaps a decade earlier. A small place, tucked into the mountainside where 2 paths crossed. Not many travelers came this way, especially not in deep winter. But the innkeeper, Mara, kept it warm and ready nonetheless. Some people are like that. They keep a light burning just in case someone needs it. The door was heavy oak, banded with iron. I pushed it open, and warmth rushed out to meet me like an old friend. "Close it quick, traveler," a woman's voice called. "You're letting the cold in." I stepped inside and pushed the door shut behind me. Snow fell from my cloak in soft whispers. For a moment, I just stood there, letting the warmth seep into my bones. The inn was just as I remembered. Low ceiling, dark wooden beams overhead. A large fireplace dominated one wall, and oh, what a beautiful fire burned there. Orange and gold flames dancing over logs that popped and crackled. The smell of wood smoke and something cooking, something with herbs and root vegetables, rich and earthy. "Well, don't just stand there like a frozen fence post," the woman said, and I saw her then, Mara, the innkeeper. She'd aged since I'd seen her last, her hair more silver now than brown, but her eyes held the same warmth. She was stirring something in a great iron pot that hung over the fire. Come in. We're quite the gathering tonight." I looked around and saw she was right. In a chair near the fire sat an older man, broad-shouldered despite his years, with a neatly trimmed grey beard. He nodded to me slowly, a gesture of acknowledgement. Retired military, I thought. You can always tell by the way they sit, straight-backed, even at rest. At one of the small tables, a young man hunched over a cup, his scout's cloak still damp with melting snow. He couldn't have been more than 20, with worry written across his features like text on a page. And in the corner, half in shadow, sat a woman perhaps 40 years old, dressed in a merchant's practical clothing. She gazed into her own cup, as if seeking answers in the tea leaves. "The storm came up fast," Mara said, ladling whatever she was cooking into a wooden bowl. "Caught everyone by surprise. You're the 5th to arrive in the last 2 hours. I don't think anyone's leaving until morning at the earliest." She handed me the bowl. "Here. Venison stew. Eat first, introductions later." The bowl was warm in my hands. I found a seat between the fire and the young scout, and I tasted the stew. Oh, it was good, rich and thick with chunks of tender meat and carrots and turnips that had been cooking for hours. The kind of food that doesn't just fill your belly. It reminds you what it means to be warm and safe and cared for. I ate slowly, savoring each spoonful. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind howled, but in here, there was only warmth. After a time, Mara settled into her own chair with a satisfied sigh. "Well then," she said, "since we're all stuck here together, we might as well know each other's names. I'm Mara. I've kept this in for 32 years, and I'll keep it 32 more if my knees allow." The older man spoke next. His voice was deep and measured. "Haldrick, formerly of the King's Guard. Retired these 5 years. I was heading home to my daughter's farm when the snow caught me." The young scout looked up nervously. "Rowan," he said quietly. "Scout for the Northern Watch. I was supposed to deliver a message 3 days ago. They'll think I failed." The woman in the corner didn't look up. For a moment I thought she wouldn't speak at all. Then, softly, "Elira. Merchant. I trade in textiles and dyes." She paused. "I was traveling with my brother. He died 2 weeks ago. Fever." The room grew quieter still. "I'm sorry," Mara said gently. Elira nodded but said nothing more. "And you, old one?" Haldrick asked, looking at me. I set down my bowl. "I'm called many things in many places," I said, "but you may call me friend, if you like. I'm a wizard, though not a very important one. I was traveling east, though I confess the reason seems less urgent now that I'm warm and fed." Mara chuckled. "That's the way of it, isn't it? Everything seems less urgent by firelight." And it was true. Outside, the storm raged on. I could hear it. The wind pressing against the shuttered windows, the whisper of snow piling up against the walls. But inside, time seemed to slow. The fire needed tending, and Haldrick rose to place another log on it. The wood was oak, dense and good for burning long. It caught quickly, and new flames curled around it like eager dancers. Mara brought out mugs and poured something from an earthenware jug. "Spiced cider," she said, "hot and sweet. Good for a night like this." The scent rose with the steam, cinnamon and cloves, apples and something else I couldn't quite name, something warm and golden. I cupped the mug in both hands and sipped. The warmth traveled all the way down. For a time we simply sat. There's a particular quality to silence shared among strangers, not awkward, but gentle, thoughtful. Then young Rowan spoke, his voice tight with worry. "They'll think I abandoned my post." The message was important, about supply routes for the winter, if I don't arrive. "You'll arrive when you arrive," Haldrick said, not unkindly. "No one controls the weather, lad. They'll know that. But what if nothing?" Haldrick's tone was firm but gentle. "I served 40 years in the Guard. I've seen men torture themselves with what-ifs. It accomplishes nothing. You're here. The storm is real. Your commanders know these mountains. They'll understand." Rowan looked down at his hands. "What if they don't?" I leaned forward slightly. "May I tell you something?" I asked. The young man nodded. "When I was much younger even than you, I was tasked with delivering a spell component to my master, a rare herb that only grew in one particular valley. I was so worried about getting it to him in time that I ran. I barely stopped to rest, and do you know what happened?" "What?" "I tripped over a root and dropped the herb into a stream. It washed away." I smiled at the memory. I was devastated. I was certain I'd failed, that I'd be cast out, that everything was ruined. "What did your master say?" "He laughed," I said. "He told me that the herb had been a test, yes, but not of speed. It was a test of judgment. He wanted to see if I'd take care of myself or sacrifice my own well-being for a task. I'd failed that test by running myself ragged, but I'd passed a different one by coming back and telling him the truth." Rowan was quiet for a moment. "I don't know if my commander thinks like that." "Perhaps not," I agreed. "But you can't change what you don't control. You can only do your best with what's before you. And right now, what's before you is this: warmth, safety, and time to rest. Those are gifts. Accept them." The young man's shoulders relaxed just a little. He nodded slowly and took another sip of cider. The fire crackled and popped. A log shifted, sending up a small shower of sparks that glowed briefly before fading. Mara rose and moved to the kitchen area. I heard her cutting bread, thick slices from a dark loaf. She brought them to us with butter and honey. The bread was dense and grainy, the kind that sticks to your ribs. The butter melted into it, and the honey was dark and rich. We ate quietly. It's remarkable, really, how much comfort can be found in simple things. Warm bread, sweet honey, the crackle of a fire, the knowledge that outside is cold, but inside is safe. After a time, Elira spoke from her corner. Her voice was soft, almost dreamy. "My brother loved snow," she said. "When we were children, he'd drag me outside during every storm. He'd make me help him build entire villages out of snow, little houses with pebble windows, walls and gates." "That sounds lovely," Mara said gently. It was. Elira smiled, but there was sadness in it. He was 10 years younger than me. I practically raised him after our mother died. We were supposed to take over the business together, expand it. She trailed off. "And now you're alone," I said quietly. She nodded. "Now I'm alone. And I don't know how to be just one. We were always a pair. Elira and Finn, Finn and Elira. Now there's only..." She couldn't finish. Holdrick's voice rumbled softly. "My wife died 8 years ago," he said. "Married 34 years. I knew who I was with her. When she died, I had to learn who I was alone. It took time." "Does it get easier?" Elira asked. "No," Holdrick said honestly. "But it gets different. The sharp edges soften. You find new shapes to hold. You learn to carry it." "I don't want to carry it." "I know." The wind howled outside, a long, mournful note. But inside, the fire burned steady. Mara moved around the room, lighting candles, small ones in brass holders, their flames tiny and bright. She placed them on windowsills and tables until the room glowed with gentle light. It was beautiful, in a quiet way, not bright and cheerful, but soft, contemplative. "I keep this place," Mara said, "because I like knowing there's a light in the dark. My husband built it with his own hands, back before our children were born. He died the year we opened. Storm took him. Different mountain, different time." She lit another candle. "I thought about leaving, closing it down. But then I thought, someone needs a warm place. Someone needs to know they can stop." "So you stayed," I said. So I stayed. 32 years of travelers. Some I remember, most I don't. But everyone who comes through that door, everyone gets the same thing. Warmth, food, a safe place to rest. She smiled. "That's enough. That's more than enough." Young Rowan looked up at her. "Do you ever get lonely?" "Of course," she said. "But lonely and alone aren't the same thing. I'm alone much of the time. But lonely, less often than you'd think. Every traveler who stops brings a piece of the world with them. I've heard stories from 100 different places. I've learned songs in languages I can't speak. I've held crying babies and served drinks to celebrating newlyweds and fed old soldiers like our friend Holdrick here." She gestured around the room. "These walls hold all of that. I'm never truly alone." The old knight nodded approvingly. "That's a good way to think of it." We fell into comfortable silence again. I found myself watching the fire, the way I often do. There's something hypnotic about flames, the way they move, always changing but always the same, dancing without purpose, burning with quiet constancy. My eyes grew heavy. Outside the storm continued, but the sound of it had changed. Less fierce, perhaps, or perhaps I was simply growing accustomed to it. The wind didn't howl now, it sang, a long, slow lullaby. Rowan had slumped down in his chair, his eyes half closed. The worry had left his face, replaced by simple exhaustion. Beside him, Elira had pulled a blanket around her shoulders, one of Mara's quilts, patched together from 100 different fabrics. She stared at the fire with distant eyes. Haldrick rose slowly, stretching his back. "I think I'll turn in," he said. "Mara, if you don't mind." "Upstairs, second door on the right. I put warming stones in the bed this afternoon." "You're a treasure," the old knight said. He nodded to each of us in turn. "Sleep well, friends." He climbed the stairs slowly, his footsteps heavy but steady on the old wood. Mara stood and stretched. "I should sleep too. I'll be up before dawn. Someone has to start the fire and put on breakfast. Help yourselves to anything you need. There are more blankets in the chest by the door, and the rooms upstairs are open." She paused at the stairs and looked back at us. "I'm glad you're all here. I know it's not where you planned to be, but I'm glad nonetheless." Then she too disappeared upstairs. That left 3 of us, myself, Rowan, and Elira. The fire burned lower, a bed of coals glowing orange and red beneath a few remaining flames. "I should add wood," I said, but I didn't move. Neither did they. Sometimes the moment asks you to simply sit in it. Elira spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you." "For what?" I asked. "For not trying to fix it. For not telling me it'll be all right, or that time heals all wounds, or any of those things people say." "Would it help if I did?" "No, then I won't." She smiled slightly. Haldrick was right, though, about learning to carry it. I don't want to, but I suppose I don't have a choice. "There's always a choice," I said gently. "But some choices are between hard things and harder things. You can choose to carry it and keep walking, or you can choose to set it down and stay where you are. Neither is wrong, but one moves forward. I'm tired of moving forward." "Then rest. You're allowed to rest, you know. You're allowed to sit by a fire and eat warm bread and not think about tomorrow, just for one night." She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were wet. "Is that wizard wisdom?" "No," I said. "That's old man wisdom. I've lived a long time, Elira, and the best thing I've learned is this. Sometimes all you need to do is make it through one more night. Tomorrow can wait." A tear slid down her cheek, but she was smiling too. One more night. One more night. Young Rowan had fallen asleep in his chair, his head tilted back, breathing slow and steady. He looked younger in sleep, the worry smoothed from his features. Just a boy, really. Barely more than a child, carrying responsibilities that weighed on him like stones. "Should we wake him?" Elira asked. "Let him sleep. He needs it." I stood slowly, my knees complaining as they always do, and took a blanket from the chest. I draped it over the young scout. He stirred slightly but didn't wake. Then I added wood to the fire, 3 good logs placed carefully. The flames rose to meet them, brightening the room again. Elira rose too. I think I'll go upstairs. Try to sleep." "Good," I said. "May you rest well." "You too, wizard." She paused at the stairs. "What you said, about making it through one more night. I think Finn would have liked that. He always said to take things one step at a time. He sounds like he was wise. He was. He really was." Then she climbed the stairs, and I was alone with the sleeping scout and the crackling fire. I settled back into my chair. Outside, the wind had gentled even more. The storm was passing, as storms always do. By morning, the world would be white and clean and new. But for now there was this, warmth and quiet and rest. I closed my eyes, not quite sleeping but not quite awake. That peaceful place in between, where thoughts drift like the snow outside, soft and slow and without direction. I thought about the strange mathematics of human connection. 5 people, brought together by chance and weather. 5 people who might never have met, who would part in the morning and likely never see each other again. And yet, for this one night, we'd formed something, a temporary constellation, brief but real. That's the thing about moments like these. They don't last, but they matter. They change you in small ways. You carry them forward, tiny lights in the dark. The fire settled lower. My breathing slowed. Sleep crept closer, gentle as falling snow. I woke to the smell of porridge and bacon. Pale light filtered through the shutters, not the grey light of storm, but something brighter, morning light. I sat up slowly, my neck stiff from sleeping in the chair. Young Rowan was gone, his blanket folded neatly on the seat. The fire had been rebuilt and burned cheerfully. Voices came from the kitchen. I rose and stretched and made my way toward them. The kitchen was small but warm. Mara stood at the stove, stirring a great pot of porridge. Rowan sat at the wooden table, spooning honey into a bowl. Haldrick was there too, and Elira, all of them looking more rested than they had the night before. "Ah, the wizard wakes," Mara said. "Come, eat. There's porridge and bacon and bread." I joined them at the table. The porridge was thick with oats and cream, sweetened with honey and studded with dried apples. The bacon was crispy and salty. The bread was the same dark loaf from the night before, toasted now and spread with butter. We ate together in comfortable quiet. After a time, Haldrick went to the window and opened the shutters. Sunlight poured in, bright and clean and almost painful after the grey of the storm. And the snow. Oh, the snow. It lay thick over everything, deep drifts against the walls of the inn. The trees bent low under the weight of it. The path had vanished entirely, replaced by an unmarked expanse of white that sparkled in the morning sun like diamonds scattered across silk. It was beautiful. Perfectly, impossibly beautiful. It stopped just before dawn, Mara said. The paths will be hard to follow, but passable if you're careful. Rowan stood and looked out the window. I should go. If I leave now, I can make the outpost by nightfall. Don't push too hard, Haldrick said. The snow is deep. It'll be slow going. I'll be careful. Elira stood too. I need to continue west. There's a town 3 days from here. I have business there. One by one, we prepared to leave. There's a particular bittersweetness to mornings after nights like that. You're glad for the new day, glad the storm has passed. But you're sorry too. Sorry to leave the warmth. Sorry to return to the cold world waiting outside. We gathered our things slowly. Rowan checked his pack 3 times. Elira folded her blanket with careful precision. Haldrick stomped his feet into his boots and tested his walking stick against the floor. I pulled on my cloak and found my staff. Mara stood by the door, watching us prepare with that same gentle smile she'd worn since we arrived. "Thank you," Rowan said to her, "for everything." "No need to thank me," she said. "Just pass it on. When someone needs warmth, give it. That's thanks enough." Haldrick clasped her hand. "You keep this light burning, Mara. The world needs it." "I will." Elira hugged her, sudden and tight. "Thank you for letting me rest." "Any time, dear. Any time." Then it was my turn. I pressed a small bag of coins into her hand. "For your trouble." "No trouble at all." "Then for your kindness." She smiled and tucked the coins away. We stepped out into the snow. The cold was sharp after the warmth of the inn, but not cruel. The sun was bright, the sky impossibly blue. Our breath plumed white in the air. The 5 of us stood together for a moment. looking at each other. Really looking. "Well," Haldrick said, "I suppose this is goodbye." "Safe travels," I said, "all of you." "You too," Elira said. Rowan nodded, then turned and began to walk. His boots crunched in the fresh snow, each step deliberate. He didn't look back. Haldrick went next, moving in a different direction, his walking stick testing each step before he committed his weight. Strong and steady, even in deep snow. Elira stood a moment longer. She looked at the inn, then at me. "Thank you," she said, "for what you said about one more night." "You're welcome." And Elira, "Yes, one more day, just one more, then another after that." She nodded. Her eyes were bright, but she was smiling. One more day. Then she too walked away, heading west toward whatever waited for her there. I stood alone with Mara. "Will you stay for more tea?" she asked. "No," I said. "I should go too. The path ahead is long. It always is." I smiled at that. True enough. She went back inside, and I heard the door close softly behind her. I turned east and began to walk. The snow was deep, yes. The path was hidden, yes. But the sun was warm on my face, and I was rested and fed and content. As I walked, I thought about the night we'd shared. 5 strangers, snowbound, each carrying something heavy, each finding for one night a place to set it down. By now, they'd be going their separate ways. Rowan would deliver his message. Late, perhaps, but delivered. His commanders would understand, or they wouldn't, but he'd learn to live with either. Haldrick would reach his daughter's farm, where he'd sit by another fire and tell her stories of his journey. Elira would continue her brother's business, one day at a time, learning to be alone without being lonely. And Mara would remain at her inn, keeping her light burning for the next travelers who needed it. All of us changed just a little, all of us carrying a small warmth from that night forward. That's the magic, really. Not spells or enchantments or grand gestures. Just this, warmth shared freely, kindness given without expectation, a safe place in the storm. I walked for hours, following the faint suggestion of the path beneath the snow. The sun tracked across the sky. My breath came steady and even. My staff clicked against the ground. Click, click, click. By evening, I'd made camp in a small clearing. I built a fire, not as grand as Mara's, but good enough. I ate bread and cheese from my pack and drank water from my canteen. The stars came out, cold and distant and beautiful. I wrapped myself in my cloak and lay down near the fire. As I drifted towards sleep, I thought of the inn behind me. I imagined Mara banking her fire for the night, checking the windows, laying out warming stones for beds that might be needed tomorrow. I thought of Rowan, hopefully settled safe at his outpost, relieved to have arrived. I thought of Haldrick, warm in his daughter's home. I thought of Elira, perhaps stopping at another inn, slowly learning to carry what must be carried. All of us, scattered now across the mountains, but connected still by one snowbound night and the warmth we'd found there. And that, dear friends, is the story I wanted to share. A small story, perhaps. No grand adventures, no magic swords or dragons' hordes or evil defeated. Just a night at an inn, just strangers becoming briefly something more. But sometimes those small stories are the ones that matter most. Sometimes all we need is warmth and kindness and the knowledge that we're not alone in the dark. Your eyes are heavy now, I can tell. That's good. That's as it should be. Let sleep come gently. Let yourself drift like snow falling, soft and slow and without effort. Imagine a fire, burning warm and steady. Imagine a roof overhead and walls around you. Imagine you're safe, because you are safe. Right now, in this moment, You are safe and warm and cared for. Tomorrow will come as it always does, but tomorrow can wait. For now, there is only this: rest, peace, gentle, welcoming sleep. The storm has passed. The night is quiet, and you are exactly where you need to be. Sleep well, dear friends. May your dreams tonight be warm and peaceful.